Alright, in this video we would like to see how we can inspect the server component and pretty much see all the components of the server and the events and everything remotely via XCC controller. So when you log into the XClarity Controller, the home page appears, which shows you some details like the server itself, if you put any name for the server. And this is the status of the components which are currently in the system. The CPU at the moment, only one CPU is installed, so it shows 1 of 2 installed. The memory also only one DIMM is installed, so it shows 1 of 16, which is on server SR590. The local storage is not found, and the reason is that server is not booted. The PCI controller 6 is being detected as installed and overall healthy. The power supply 1 of 2 is installed, and the reason is that this server comes with 2 power supply pre-configured, and I just plug one of them to simulate when one power cable is not connected or power supply, the redundant power supply has been going off. This will be the status of the server, and if you come here, it shows you non-redundant, sufficient resources from redundancy degraded, or fully redundant for power resource has asserted. So this means that there is only one power supply, while the server, based on the configuration, is expected to detect 2 power supplies working in order to fulfill full redundancy on the power supply. And the next one is fan. It is not being shown yet. This is the system board, and this is the other components. If you have a look in the right side, you will see that the status of system is power off. This is the machine type 7X99 and the model, which is complete model here. The serial number of the server, the name if any, and you can change it here, like to buy SR590 demo box. And then it will also appear here. And then front USB ownership is in shared mode, which is shared by the management and the system itself. This is the BMC license, which we already have. XClarity Controller Enterprise has been upgraded. Base management controller IP address, which by default is 192.168.701.25. The BMC host name, BMC version, UEFI version, and LXPM version, and location, which you can also mention here. We have quick access here to power actions, ID location LED, which shows on the rack which one this server will be. The service status, the remote console preview, which we can also record videos. And here we have power utilization, with at the moment the input is taking something like 8 watt, and the other components taking only 9 watts at the moment because the server is off. And also temperature sensors will be available when the server is up. Okay, so if you want the detailed configuration on every component, you can click on that. For example, the CPU. This prompt says that the inventory which is being shown is just whatever it was in the previous system power on and has been detected. So if there is any change during the power cycle, it is warning you that doesn't have any idea about the change. We have one CPU installed, 4210 scalable 2nd generation Xeon, which is 10 core. And if you click on the link, it gives you more details, like what is the maximum frequency, what is the maximum threads, which is double the maximum of cores, L1 cache, L2 cache, L3 cache, and the voltage. So this is also about the DIMM memories, which is only DIMM 3 and 16 GB. This is the part number, and again you can click and see all the details about it. What is the FRU serial number? What is the FRU part number? If you would like to order more memory, you will order by FRU, because sometimes the memory is being manufactured by Samsung or other brands. The part numbers, option numbers actually are different, but the FRU are the same for the same server, so you only order with this FRU number. And this is the different storage which I have been plugged on the server. I just removed one of the 600 GB 10K drives which is coming with the server, and replace it with the Micron 5100 Max as a U2 drive. And this is actually not Lenovo branded. This is why we don't have part number here. This is intelligent and detect this is not being a part number from the Lenovo. But anyway, these two are the 600 GB with this FRU number. I can click and see the part number, this one, which is actually a Seagate part number, and the temperature based on the last data, and the manufacturer, which shows Lenovo, and the firmware and status and other details. This is also about the same Micron 5100 Max. It gives me more details and also shows the remaining life of the SSD, the parameter which is not available for the hard drives, because roughly they are 5 years. And then we already have one configuration on the SAS drives and one configuration on the SSD drive. The first one is drive number 2, which is currently, I put it in the RAID 0 status, 1.8 TB. And the reason which I'm using at the moment the RAID 0 is just because I want to test all of the drives in the same situation and measure the I/O performance later in the videos. And drive 0 is RAID 0 600 GB, which gives you roughly this amount of storage. The power supply 1 of 2 is installed, and this is the part number and the serial number and the version and the manufacturer, which is ACBel, and how many times I cycled the power supply, how much was the power supply on, and the fan is still not known because the system is down. We have PCI adapters. One is for GPU, which if you open it, you will have more details about the GPU itself. We have SATA controller number 1, and we also have SATA controller number 2, which are on board, and we have Intel X722 LAN on motherboard. This stands for LAN on motherboard, and it shows that there is 2 of them, 2 ports, and this is the details, which is the Intel manufacturer and the PCI details and the firmware, which is on the chipset of the LAN, and the network adapter summary, and the physical port, which shows you which port it has, physical port 3, and burned-in address as the MAC address on the board, and link speed and status, which is currently off. This is also the second network card, which has the same details. The third one is a PCI Express NVMe controller known as HHHL, which again I put it from the Samsung, not Lenovo, and it is Samsung PM1725A. It's a 6.4 terabyte NVMe storage controller. And this is more details about the card. And the last one is the RAID controller, which is by default provided on the server. It is 2 gigabyte of cache, flash cache, which is burned into the board. And this is the model. And if you open up, you see the details about the manufacturer, which is actually, it should be LSI, I believe. And more details about the board and the status of the battery, which is operational. And again, this is LSI and serial numbers and everything. This is the system board and the serial numbers of the system. This is the back planes which has been raised on the system. This is dated 16/9/2019, which is actually the day which Lenovo has manufactured the server. And this is the date of the riser card, which I put in the system because the server comes without the riser card, and I have to install one to install my NVMe PCI Express card. These are all the firmwares, and I have the utilization, which is currently not that much useful till I start the server. This is the remote console, which I can go and remotely manage the server, or I record video. Firmware update is possible from here with update the firmware, and server configuration also. It is possible to do it, but this is also because of the inventory. Boot options also can be adjusted from here, and power policy. This is why, as a redundant power policy, we have the warning in the power section. We can put it either in non-redundant and we don't receive any more errors, or keep this one and solve the issue with the server, which at the moment is just plugging the power cable. And this is the policy again about the power capping of the server, which I leave it as it is. This is the restore policy of the server in case the power being interrupted and server goes down. When the power is coming on, what should be the status? This says the restore system to same status before power fail. It means that if the power was on, again the server will be in power on situation, or if it was off, it will remain in off situation. We can choose always on if we want that always the server being on. And this is the RAID setup, which we will see it in the later video, and more information about it is available. This is also the location of the server and the watchdog and many things, which we will see later. And this is the BMC configuration, like how we can back up the BMC configuration, or restore it to the factory defaults. This is the licenses which we have at the moment for XClarity Controller, which is XClarity Controller Advanced Upgrade and Enterprise Upgrade. This is the network setting, which shows how should be this XClarity behaving. First it goes for DHCP, then the IP address. So I don't have DHCP here. This is why I went through this 70125. And The rest is also just standard things that you can do it. And then we have here the security, which shows about the SSL certificate or SSH server or IPMI over KCS. And other details like security key lifecycle management and security password. And the last one is being used for authentication, which is for the moment we only have one user ID by default, which is user ID, and it is supervisor on the system and will never expire. And you can use it via web HTTPS, and you can change it as long as you want, or you can go to LDAP. Okay, that's pretty much everything in this video, so see you later in other videos. Thank you.